Good Thursday morning, everyone. Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. We got lots to track in today's video. We're tracking California flooding with rain and heavy snow out west, a severe weather outbreak in the southeast, what you need to know about that, and for snow lovers out there, the cold and snow is on the way. Definitely stick around to the end of this video to see when and where we could see snow later on this month. If you guys are new to the channel and have yet to subscribe, hit the subscribe button down below. We're just about to approach 15,000 subscribers today. Our new goal is 25,000 by the middle of this month. So help out, subscribe down below, and hit the notification bell to get all of my daily weather forecast updates on this channel. Over the past 24 hours, we've had a quiet weather pattern across most of the country. Back off to the west, however, we saw a couple of inches of heavy rain across portions in northern and northwestern California here, dumping over 2 inches of rain in some of these areas here of coastal California as we headed back to the last couple of days. But we still have that atmospheric river in place, crashing into the west coast. Lots of moisture here into northern California and the coastal regions of Washington State and Oregon through the next couple of days. And again, we still have this 984 millibar low pressure just off the west coast here of the United States. That's going to be bringing more unsettled weather with rain and snow through the west coast going up here into this weekend. So looking here around midday today, this is the noon time frame. More of that heavy rain will be sneaking up farther to the north across the higher elevations of the Pacific Northwest, most of Washington State, some parts here of western and northern portions of Oregon, and then getting back in extreme northwestern portions of California, starting to see some rain there. That will mainly stay along the coastal regions, going through the day today and getting into the overnight hours to start the day on Friday, January 13th, and then going into Friday, the noon time frame here on Friday, January 13th, more of that heavy rainfall here and snow will be sneaking in here across portions of California, western portions of Oregon, and Washington State as we head during that time frame. Looking here at the total rainfall accumulation across the western United States here, generally along those coastal regions from Portland, Oregon, up here towards Seattle and farther south through northern portions of California, generally 1 to 3 inches more of rainfall over the next couple of days. And again, farther south here toward the Los Angeles region, it does look a lot drier going through the next 24 to 36 hours. Looking at the total snowfall accumulation, we will be adding up some heavier snow up here across the Sierra Nevada mountains through the next 24 to 36 hours, possibly another 6 to 10 inches worth of snow in some of these areas into those higher elevations going through this upcoming weekend. And if you guys are still with me on the video, definitely remember to press that like button down below. It gets all of this weather information out to more and more people, so I definitely appreciate all of the likes out there. But as we go through the day today, we have another weather system we're keeping an eye on off to the east with a cold frontal boundary. We're definitely going to start to see more showers and storms across portions of the Ohio Valley and especially the southeast here. And we have lots of lift along this cold front here. Lots of these brighter colors featuring the very strong lift along that cold front, providing the threat for thunderstorms and even some severe weather across the southeast. The Storm Prediction Center has upgraded to a level 3 of 5, an enhanced risk for severe thunderstorms today across eastern Alabama through the Atlanta metro area there, and including north central Georgia later on today. A broader slight risk here in the yellow, and then a large green shaded risk. That is a marginal risk that extends farther up here into portions of the western Carolinas, western Virginia, and Kentucky as we head through the day today. So looking at the hazards through the day today, we have a 2 to 5% shading for tornadoes, the highest shading here across portions of Alabama, Georgia, portions of southeastern Tennessee, and western South Carolina. This includes Atlanta metro, getting back into Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, and then up here toward the Chattanooga region as we head through the day today. Also that higher end threat for wind across portions of north central Georgia, getting into eastern portions there of Alabama with wind gusts over 60 miles per hour, and that could extend farther north toward Kentucky later on today. And then even a lower end chance for some large hail up around quarter to $half size is definitely possible as we head through the day today, and that continues across most of the southeastern United States. So let's track these storms. Looking here at the noon time frame here this afternoon, we got a line of some showers and storms here across the southeast from portions of Kentucky down through middle and eastern Tennessee, getting down here through northwestern Georgia and central portions of Alabama. Some of these storms could be severe with damaging winds, large hail, and a few brief spin-up tornadoes, especially along the leading edge of these storms. As we head through the afternoon and into the early evening hours, this is 6 p.m. time frame. We got a squall line of showers and storms moving across the southeast here into the western Carolinas, through central Georgia, crossing through the Atlanta metro area, and then getting down into southeastern Alabama and the far northwest Florida panhandle. Some of these storms will be pretty feisty as well, bringing some damaging winds, large hail, and a couple of tornadoes possible, especially if we can get some discrete supercells ahead of the main line or on the leading edge of that line. And then that system will start to slowly move off to the east toward the midnight time frame going into Friday morning, crossing off the coast here with maybe some thunderstorms getting down here into places like Orlando and Jacksonville and the Tallahassee region. A couple of those could be gusty wind producers, but I don't think the severe weather threat will be as prolific as it is back off to the north and west. Looking at the setup here, we have a very strong mid-level jet rounding the base of this trough. There's no surprise we're going to have that damaging wind threat out there with some of these organized mid-level winds up around 70, 80 knots here in some of these higher elevations. And then looking at the low-level jet as well, very formidable across the southeast. And again, we're going to be talking about lots of wind with this system, potentially with that damaging wind threat out there and those tornadoes. Looking at the heavy rain with these storms, we could be talking about some heavy 1 to 2 inch per hour rainfall rates with this system. Definitely going to be more of a progressive line, so we're not too terribly concerned about flooding out here, but we still could be seeing some heavier rainfall, especially northbound we go into Kentucky, West Virginia, through the Tennessee Valley and the western Carolinas, picking up over 2 inches of rain in many of these locations. But up to the northeast, this storm is going to be affecting the northeast and parts of the mid-Atlantic as well. Going through the noon time frame today, we got some lighter snow up here into portions of interior New England, getting up into southeastern portions of Canada around the Montreal region, a couple of inches of snow there, but back off to the southwest, Ohio, back down into Virginia, West Virginia, and western Pennsylvania, we're going to be seeing a steady shield of rain develop. That will move through most of New England as we head through the evening hours tonight, getting into the overnight hours. In those higher elevations of Vermont, New Hampshire, and northern Maine, we could be talking about some heavier snow up across these areas, and then some very heavy, steady rain across that I-95 corridor from Boston down through Connecticut, Rhode Island, New York City, getting back down through portions of New Jersey and much of the mid-Atlantic as well. And then going in through the noon hour on Friday here tomorrow, on Friday, January 13th, that heavier swath of snow with that cold air will be farther up to the north, northern Maine, getting up into upstate New York and much of southeastern Canada. This includes the Montreal region and much of southern Quebec as we head through that noon time frame here tomorrow. Looking at the total rainfall accumulation across the northeast, some heavy rain with that steady rain shield moving across the most of New England. We're talking about 1 to 2 inch rainfall amounts here across especially that I-95 corridor and much of Pennsylvania, getting up here into portions of New York State and then back down through West Virginia as well. And then looking at those temperatures out there, the reason why we're seeing the rainfall here across the I-95 corridor is because temperatures will be in the upper 40s to middle 50s out there. So it'll be well too warm for snow. You can see those colder temperatures farther up to the north into southeastern Canada and interior New England below freezing, and that's going to support that heavier snow potential. And you can see that laying out across the Montreal region, getting into northern Maine and the higher elevations here into New York State and into portions of Vermont and New Hampshire. We could be picking up several inches to over a foot of snow, especially to southeastern Canada, going through the next couple of days. This is also going to lead to some travel impacts, especially up here in northern Maine, where we could have those minor to moderate travel impacts here the farther northbound we go. And I do imagine more moderate to even major travel impacts, especially with over a foot of snow farther up to the north toward the Montreal region and eastern Canada, as that system does continue to push on up into the north and east. But with the temperatures going through this weekend, it does not feel like January out there, folks. We're still seeing the very warm temperatures here. These anomalies across the middle of the country and even up into Canada are still 10, 20 degrees above average going through Saturday, January 14th, and also Sunday, January 15th through the middle of this month. Very warm temperatures for this time of year, and these are your temperatures. These are your highs going into Saturday, January 14th. Widespread 40s, 50s, and 60s down here across the southern plains and getting up even into the Midwest as well. The cold air, so to speak, will be up to the north across portions of the northern Midwest, getting up into North Dakota, northern Minnesota, north woods of Wisconsin here into the upper 20s, and then parts of New England there on Saturday, getting into the middle 20s to low 30s for highs there. And then going into Sunday, much of the same, a carbon copy here with more of the 40s, 50s, 60s, and maybe even some 70s down here into central and southern Texas as we get into the middle of the month here on Sunday, January 15th. And the Climate Prediction Center's forecast does maintain that warmth across the eastern 2/3 of the country, going all the way through the 21st of the month that following weekend, with more of these cooler anomalies still centered across the southwestern United States and the Four Corners region during that period. And as we get in towards the last week of the month, going right straight through Wednesday, January 25th here and closing out the month, that warmth will start to push farther off to the east. We'll be introducing more troughs across the west, and that cooler air will start to dig in across the Great Plains and eventually move farther east as we head towards the closing days of this month. And that will be coinciding with some very active weather as well, especially up here into the north central plains, the Midwest, and much of the East Coast as well during that period, which could be introducing more snowfall here as well. And we'll start to dry things up across California, the desert Southwest over here through Texas during that period. So looking at all the cold out there, we got all those below zero and well below zero high temperatures well up to the north across the Arctics. This time of year, especially here, it's very cold up to the north. This is on Monday, January 16th, but we still have these anomalously warm temperatures down here across much of the lower 48. But as we get into late next week, as we head into Friday, January 20th here, getting in closer toward that last full week in January, we're going to start to pull down some of this cold air farther south. That freezing line will go a little bit farther south toward the Central Plains and the Ohio Valley, and that's going to introduce a very strong subtropical jet. Initially is going to be very flattened across the southern and southwestern United States on that Monday, January 16th timeframe. But watch as we go into late next week, Friday, January 20th, we start to amplify this subtropical jet a little bit more. We're going to be picking up the moisture off the Pacific Ocean and the Gulf of Mexico if we can get some troughs in here, and it does look like we're starting to see some signs of another major storm system taking shape late next week and going into next weekend. And again, on the northwestern side of the system, with some of that cold air moving in, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some very heavy snow start to break out. And then on the southeastern side, of course, we got the thunderstorms and possibly more severe weather going into late next week and into next weekend. So looking at the snowfall potential here, these are just early estimates. Again, we're not going to be spitting out any snowfall amounts here, but this is just a general trend of what the track of these systems could be. This is the European high resolution guidance showing that track from portions of the Central Plains up here through the western Great Lakes and into portions of southeastern Canada. The GFS a little bit more bullish and a little farther north with these amounts and the track of the system a little farther north into the Dakotas, Nebraska up here through Minnesota, and the northwestern Great Lakes getting up into southeastern Canada. So there are some track differences north and south with this here, and that's, very common this far out. So we'll continue to track that going through the next several days. But looking at the potential storm track, looking at these two models, the GFS would be preferred of the green model, and the blue model here would, which would be the European high resolution guidance, would take this a little bit farther to the south, kind of a Texas hook type of low pressure system, and then that golden path for heavy snow across the Chicagoland area, Detroit, Milwaukee, and portions of La Crosse, Wisconsin, would be preferred for this to move up here with the blue arrow here. And again, heavier snowfall for the Twin Cities up here toward portions of Duluth and getting back here toward Des Moines. That would be more of that green arrow if you wanted some heavier snow there. So we'll continue to track this in the next few days and see what the trends will be with this system. But however you slice it, this is turning the page toward the final week of January here. We're going to start to see colder temperatures digging down with that pattern change farther to the south across the western 2/3 of the country. We'll start to exit some of this anomalously warm air off to the east across eastern Canada and the far eastern United States, getting into that following week on Monday, January 23rd. And then as we get into the last few days of January, we're going to start to see much of southern Canada and the lower 48 start to turn over to these blue and purple shaded colors, and that means well below average temperatures as we get into that time frame. And again, it will be very cold as well, very, very cold cold during that time frame, and we could be moving that snow line a little bit farther to the south as well during this period, farther south toward the Rockies here, toward the Denver area, getting farther south perhaps toward Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, and much of the Ohio Valley in the Northeast and parts of the Mid-Atlantic here through February 1st of 2023. So definitely by the time we get towards the late January timeframe into early February, it does look like we're going to start to turn a lot colder and a lot snowier as well. So definitely take advantage of that here if you're missing out on the snow here this winter. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I definitely appreciate it. Remember to like the video down below, give it a thumbs up, leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. I'll get to those later on today. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're new, and hit the notification bell to get all of my daily weather forecast updates on this channel. Have a great Thursday, everybody, a great rest of your week, and I will see you all in the next video.